This weekend, women's MMA pioneer Tonya Evinger is set to take on hometown girl Lina Lansberg when the UFC Octagon touches down in Stockholm, Sweden. After a professional MMA career that started 13 years ago, almost to the day, Evinger is coming into hostile territory in an attempt to score her first UFC win. Every week I come to you talking about specific fighters, hot topics in the sports, fight previews, and what have you. The vast majority of the time I'm coming from a place of just offering my opinion for you to agree or disagree with. I attempt to move the conversation forward, or at the very least, make some points about whatever it is I happen to be talking about. But every now and then I just bring someone up just for the sake of putting the spotlight on them. With so much moving and shaking going on in this game, with each event seamlessly leading right into the next without proper time to digest what's just taken place before we're already looking at what's around the corner, a lot tends to get left on the back burner. There's never any shortage of things to discuss, but at the same time, there's only so much one can spend their time writing or talking about. So this week I felt the need to bring some attention to the fact that Tonya Evinger is fighting. No, this fight doesn't have any title implications. There isn't exactly a lineup of contenders to take on Amanda Nunes at 135 at the moment, but at the same time, there's enough bodies at the type to keep the division busy and to create a great deal of separation between Evinger and the upper echelon of the women's bantamweight division. I just think a bit more shine should be put on the woman, especially being on a card that isn't the deepest in the world. Although she is yet to win inside the octagon and she's coming off of a 2-fight losing streak, she deserves some credit for her body of work as she entered the show being undefeated in 11 fights, which needless to say is impressive. There's also the fact that Evinger's path to finally making it to the UFC was to take a short notice fight that absolutely nobody wanted against then champion Cris Cyborg. She ultimately took the L, but showed her true character by showing up, stepping in front of Cyborg, and whizzing punches right by her chin. She showed a lot of courage that night, and I remember it getting the attention of friends of mine I was watching with at the time. It left an impression on them, and I'm certainly not ready to say that if she had a full training camp, the result would have been different, but I always believed that if she was on an even playing field for that fight, she would have been able to make a much better account of herself. Her second loss in the promotion came to the current talk of the 135-pound division, Aspen Ladd. Ladd is currently undefeated, and after beating Evinger, she went on to take out Sijara Eubanks, and it was just announced that she's going to be headlining the event in Sacramento when she takes on GDR. So maybe Evinger isn't so far away from the top after all. But either way, she deserves some attention for being a pioneer of women's MMA, and let's be honest, for being the polar opposite of what the UFC generally wants to see out of their female fighters. With her somewhat brash and perhaps a little rough exterior, she's a character who is legitimately funny if you've ever heard her in interviews or heard her on podcasts, but is also legitimately a badass. Tune into the prelims this weekend for UFC Stockholm to take in Evinger versus Lansberg, because it's going to be an entertaining clash. Evinger is tough as shit, and she brings the fight, and I do expect her to walk away with the victory on Saturday night. Things have been quiet with her lately, but if she does come away with the W on Saturday, I'm expecting to hear a lot more out of her going forward.